Hello and welcome back to video number 3 on identity access management. This video would be around Azure Active Directory business to business and business to consumer demo, which is a very rich, very live demo. This would augment the first two videos where we have understood the concepts around Azure Active Directory, authentication and authorization. So I strongly recommend that if you have not watched the first two videos, please do watch those two videos first before you watch this third video. It will make more sense. But with that, we can actually dive into the demo itself. All right, let's move on. All right, folks, just to show you all these different types of identities here. So if I go to Azure Active Directory, and when you go and look into identities here for the users, and you will see here user type member, right? We discussed that in our slide deck. And if I can expand it here, so all these identities that are showing with AZ on Microsoft are the cloud only identities here in this scenario. And this identities that you have is actually a synced identities, right? So directory synced here, say yes. And this is a cloud only identity. We talked about that you can create cloud only identities, or you can have a synced identity. And this next video that we are going to talk about, we're going to show you how we sync it and what happens in all the sync options there, and what are other authentication and authorization comes into picture, right? And as you see, you can see multiple identity. I don't know whether I have it anymore, but so these are members. And then when you create a new user here, see, if you create a new user here, that means you are creating a cloud only identity. Now I cannot change it, this user, sorry, this UPN here, which is what is the next part of discussion here, because my domain is a federated domain. We'll discuss it. I don't want to confuse you here, because you do not have a drop down option here. And if I want to create a cloud only identity, I would say here simply demo, and I can create a identity here, demo. Very simple. Auto generate the password. I can add them to groups and roles, which is a next presentation for role-based access control. We'll discuss it. You're allowing the sign in, and you can create it. So what you did just now, you created an identity in the cloud, which is a cloud only identity, non-synced identity, and it will authenticate with the password that we just created. You could choose your own password, and users would be asked to reset the password when he or she logs in here, right? So if you see here, demo should be here, and it is non-synced. It's a member, it's a cloud only identity. Now we will talk about a synced identity shortly once we go into authentication and authorization video. I don't want to do it twice to make it videos smaller. And then we go to the new guest user. This is a B2B scenario here. You can invite users here, because this is a guest user, this is a B2B user, and here what you need is an email address, is mandatory, right? So let's say I just created a brand new account to test it, and we'll test it in a minute. Hopefully it will go fine. I want to establish one fact by doing this, which you might find interesting. All right, so invitation has been sent. So we got the invitation. We need to accept the invitation. All right, so this is what I was expecting, right? So because you don't have an account, we have just established that account here, and that's what should be expected. And this is exactly what should happen. Now I need to create a password. And it's going to ask me all these silly questions here. January anything would work. So it should have sent me a code. And the code is right here. 5332 5332. And as I have not given this user any rights here, so he should not be able to see any apps. But that's how you create an account, right? So if I go back into my tenant, perfect, no apps found. Now if I go back into the another window that I have opened here, and I try to find Satish, I should be able to see it. Right here, it's created that account using the Gmail identity as a B2B invited here. Now, if I want, I can give this user the rights here, and then he should be able to do the work, because let's do this and that's what we will be discussing in our RBAC, but all right, so this user has been given right. So if we go back here and try to go to the portal, so he's logged in as Satish Palta, but he should be able to see resources in that subscription, and I have nothing here. He has the rights at the reader layer, and he can see anything that he likes here. He can only read it. We'll discuss that in our separate discussion, but that's the point. That's what we are trying to prove here. And remember, as I had mentioned in my earlier part of this presentation, that when you invite users, these B2B users, you actually only use their email address as their identity, but you're not actually logging on to their host provider. So if I'm using a Gmail address here for this case, I'm not actually logging to Gmail. I'm actually logging into Azure using that identity and the password that I have created during the registration process in Azure. So basically this is still an Azure identity, but the only thing is that instead of using a username that you create as a, when you create a new user here, you are able to use the email address of that user. That's all we did. But in no way it is the user that is you're using here for Gmail as a B2B scenario is logging on to Gmail, and that's how he's getting access. Basically, those two passwords are very different. These are two different identities. The one identity that you use for Gmail is actually at the Google side, that is in the Google directory, that's where it is authenticating, while the Gmail identity that you create in Azure is an Azure identity using the Gmail ID format. That's all, right? So we just need to make sure we're absolutely clear about it. Now we have an opportunity to also go through one of the use case that I mentioned earlier. So what if the user that we are inviting is not a a Gmail user or a partner email address? What if that user that we are inviting, it belongs to another Azure Active Directory? Maybe he's another Office 365 tenant, or maybe he is sitting in another Office 365 in another Azure Active Directory. Remember, we started our Azure Active Directory discussion with the concept of multi-tenant managed identity services. So at the top, these identities are in one managed services, right? Whether it is in one tenant or another tenant. The directory services is attached to one tenant, but it is a overall Microsoft multi-tenant managed identity service, right? Which is what we started in the beginning. We have an opportunity now to see if we can showcase that, like what happens, because if that identity already exists in Microsoft managed identity services, then that identity, if you invite it from another Azure Active Directory, should not have to re-register his and create his password. He should be able to authenticate directly from the host Azure Active Directory wherever you're inviting from, right? So we have that use case, and let's see the actual implication of that. Remember, in this environment, we have not done any kind of a multi-factor authentication yet, right? So let's see if I can go back into my tenant. If we can see it here, let me log back here as a different user. And here I want to log in with the tenant that we have been working. This is the new tenant that I have created, and down the road we will be using this Azure Active Directory tenant for all our future demos, right? So this is our Azure Active Directory that we would be using here, and remember, this Azure Active Directory name is AT365 TST. I'm logged in here as an admin, and I can also open another tenant, which is my different tenant. And here I would log in as this gentleman. So this is another Azure Active Directory, and his Azure Active Directory name is AZ Lab. Identities here are federated, which is what is our gonna be next topic of discussion in next video. But if you see here, there is a user called as this gentleman, atul.razor.aztest.club. This is in a separate Azure Active Directory. Now we're gonna try to do the B2B scenario for this and see what the difference is, right? Whether this user is asked to recreate his password, or he should not be asked to recreate his password, and he should be able to authenticate to this Azure Active Directory without re-registering and without creating a password in the other Azure Active Directory where we are going to invite it from, right? So we're going to invite from here any users, and so we're going to get a new guest user here, and we're going to invite it, right? So remember, when you have a B2B scenario, you always invite with the email address. That's mandatory. We discussed that earlier. Oh, did we already added that? Really? 1 second, let me check it. Alright, so I can invite this user now because I had already invited that, so I'm going to redo it, invite it, and hopefully it would send an invitation to this user. And let's see what happens once we get there, right? So if I go and try to open the email for this user, so as you see, the user has received an email invitation that we sent a few minutes back, and now he can test it and accept invitation and see if there is a difference in as compared to when we send an invitation to Gmail. See here, immediately he is being asked to authenticate to the other Azure Active Directory. It's not asking you to create a password. And as the other Azure Active Directory is already federated, this is a true multi-tenant managed identity services example, right? So if I can go here, and see, this is review permissions, accept it. I don't have to create a password here like what we did for Gmail, because this is where we are taking the advantage of Microsoft managed services, right? And then it's asking for the MFA here. We don't have to worry about it right now. And we are actually successfully registered now without creating a password. So basically now we don't have any permissions allowed here on the my apps for this particular user, but if there is a permission, if we have allowed anything, now this user has access to by using his other Azure Active Directory B2B solution, right? So let's see if I can try to do something funky here. Let me see, folks. Now because he has an access to the other environment, he can actually change. He logged in here as Atul Datta, that is Tester Club, but because his identity also exists as a guest identity, B2B identity into this one, he can actually change it and he can start using the services in that tenant, right? I can definitely do that, but that's the beauty of B2B solution. And when he does that, he's still authenticating to his Azure Active Directory. He has not created a password in this particular Active Directory instance for 8365 because he's truly using the multi-tenant Microsoft Identity Management Services, which is very important for you to understand. Right now, he can definitely click it, and then if we have given him rights onto any of these resources, let's try to do that and see what happens. So if I can go back here and can go to the subscriptions here, and I can give him temporarily read rights, add role assignments, and I can give him a reader. Now there are multiple Atul here, so we need to be careful. Guest, right? And I have given him the rights here on this environment. If I go back into this gentleman, back again, and I actually switch it to 8365 TST, I'm not initiating any password here, MFA here. Now the one thing that you would like to avoid if you do this, that you do not turn the MFA on for this if this MFA is already turned on the other Azure Active Directory, which is the case in my situation here. So I have MFA turned on in the source Azure Active Directory where that identity actually resides. And if I also turn MFA on my environment, then it might ask MFA twice, which is what you should avoid. But now he has the read rights, so he should be able to see. Maybe it's too early. Yeah, here you go. And he should have the read rights here. Yep, He has the rights to subscription. He can hopefully see now the resources. It took a while to get the permissions, but all good, right? So this is the beauty of a multi-tenant managed identity services. I wanted to make sure that you guys understand it. And you would also understand that if in the source Azure Active Directory, a single sign-on is configured, which is what we are going to discuss, the single sign-on in our next video, then the users would get a single sign-on to log in to your Azure tenant. So that's pretty cool, right? Now, once we understand this scenario or this use case, next thing that we need to talk about is which is the remaining component, is Azure B2C, right? So we'll jump into that momentarily. I'm going to pause. So talking about Azure B2C, there are certain prerequisites that we would need to do. I have already done that. I'll just quickly walk you through that. Before you create an Azure B2C tenant, you need to make sure that you have enabled the resource types. So if you go to the subscription here, and you need to go to the resource providers, I guess, right? And then you would need to make sure that you have enabled Microsoft Azure Active Directory, and that is registered here. If you have not, you would not be able to create Azure B2C. So once you have enabled this, then in order to make sure that we are safe and secure, I would need to create a separate account for B2C that we will be using it, which we do not want to mess with the rest of the accounts here. And in that case, I have created a user here called as B2C admin, I believe, right? And this user has been given the global admin rights on Azure Active Directory. That's what he needs. And he also needs the rights on the subscription as an owner. So I have done both of the tasks. So he's a owner subscription and he's also a global administrator. Now with this, we are ready to go ahead and create a B2C tenant. So let's try to log in with this guy. Okay. Now we need to make sure that we have a resource group available for it. And I think I have created a resource group for B2C. This is already good to go. Now we need to create the B2C tenant or new active add directory, right? So Azure Active Directory B2C, and we just need to create. It's very straightforward, folks. I don't have any right now, so I'm just going to try to do this here. Create a new, and I'm going to put the organization name here as B2C. I think we should accept it. The initial domain name, that's what we need to pick it up, and we can do here raise the B2C. That's my domain name here. Already taken it, so that's not gonna work. Let's do this here. Okay, and that is good. Data center United States, and then the resource group, right? So remember, it is not letting me create the resource group here. So basically you should have the resource group already created, right? And next review and create, it should take a couple of minutes. This validation passed, and it should create it momentarily. All right, so the tenant has been created. Now we need to link it to the subscription, I believe. All right, so our Azure Active Directory B2C tenant is now created. Now remember that you have to make sure that, because now you have got your regular Azure Active Directory where your all regular users are, which is what we have been seeing in past, and now you have the new directory. So now you have the ability to switch in between these two directory. So if you go here, so, switch directory, you will see both of them. Right now I'm logged into the B2C directory, but if I need to log in back to my regular Azure Active Directory, I can log in, right? So in order to do all the work right now for our remaining demo, we should be on B2C, which we are already on. Now, the next thing that we are going to try to do here in this demo is we're going to try to create a demo app, which will use Microsoft default JWT.ms endpoint, where all the redirection would happen and we can see all the tokens. We will see both OAuth and OpenID protocol being used in this environment. And the next task that we should be doing it is that we should have a kind of a user flow created for sign up, sign in, password reset, as well as profile modification, right? So why we are doing it, basically when you are using business to consumer, it would be an unwanted overhead for us to create all those identities here. So users should be able to create their own identities, register their own identities, or use their social identities to access your application, right? That's the whole premise here. So instead of we going into and we creating users here, which is one of the method, right? You still have that option. We would like end users to be able to use either their social identities or their email addresses to sign up and sign in. So for that, we'll start with this process, and in demo I will try to cover at least one social identity provider, the Facebook, and also hopefully we'll use one of the identity provider as Azure Active Directory. Just for your reference, these are different identity providers that could easily be leveraged, including your partner's emails or local account, and rest of them are Amazon, Facebook, GitHub, blah blah blah, right? And some of them has an automation built in there, so you can from GitHub portal as well. Now I'm not a developer, so this is not my sweet spot here, but I'll try to do the best I can to explain you a few things. So first thing that I'm going to do is going to create an application here and register an application. Basically these are our options. I want to use this one because this make a lot of sense. Accounts in organizational directory, any other Active Directory, multi-tenant, single tenant, but to have the wider scope, I would use this. The redirect URL I'm going to use right now web, but you can change it anytime, and you can also change this URL to whatever you like. It is changeable. Remember that this can only accept HTTPS. It is not going to take HTTP. That's not acceptable, right? So here we are going to use the redirection URL as jwt.ms, and we're going to register this application here. Very straightforward, folks. Here, oops, didn't I put a name here? Oh. So a tool, what we call a tool app. Okay. So this app is created. Now here is a important thing that we need to understand here, because by doing that I burned myself because I was following some old documentation and it didn't work. So when we go authentication here, right, you need to make sure that you check these boxes so that it will start working. Otherwise it will ask token for you to supply, right? So in order to test this, we definitely need to make sure that we check it and we save it, right? This is for just for testing purposes, so we are using it. Okay, now we're good. Now we're going to create those workflows that we were talking about. Our app is registered. Now we're going to create 3 different user flows, or user flow. Yeah, one of them is sign up and sign in, one of them would be profile editing, and third would be password reset. You can also break it down and sign up and sign in into 2 separate ones, but we will go with this one, and we will use the new next generation, the new one, which is in the preview user, but this works. So I'm just going to do this, and I'm gonna call it as sign in. Oops. Sign up, sign in. Right now I'm going to use the email. That's our only identity provider at this point. We can change it and we can add additional identity provider down the road. As I promised, I will try to do the Facebook. I'm not sure I would be successful or not. MFA is optional. I'm right now not doing it, just to make sure that we can do that. We can also enable conditional access. This is what we discussed in earlier part of this presentation. We can leave it on here and use it, and then we need to add the attributes here, right? So the application collection attribute and return attribute. So I'm going to use email address. I'm going to possibly, you can use display name, I guess, and then the given name and the surname. That's the minimum that we should do, and then we should match it here. Email address, right? And that's how we create the sign up and sign in flow. It's done. Now we're going to create a profile editing. Similar thing. Create. I'm going to call as pedit and email and attributes. So we're going to use given name, surname, and we can also use email address in the return one, right? So for profile editing, click OK. We can create this, and then we can create the password reset, and then we can do the recommended one, which is I am going to call it SPR reset. Leave everything as it is. Let's do the given name and surname into this. I don't think I need to do anything beyond that. Given name and surname should be enough. Click OK. Create. Now we are good here, folks. So we have created. I just want to show you a few additional things here. If you go this properties here, identity provider, we already have it. It could be already, it can always be changed. That's the whole point. These are the user attributes. These are the return attributes that we talked about. These are the connectors. You can also do advanced setting here for page layout, which we are not going to do it. But if you just go to the properties here, it will tell you some additional token based setting, right? So what other token based setting is. So for an example, conditional access is the token lifetime. Refresh to token lifetime. These are important settings once you start actually using an application. And then you also have the token compatibility setting, right? And then you have the session behavior, web app session lifetime. These are important settings once you get into the production environment. And password complexity. For our testing purposes, we're going to leave the way it is, but this is additional configuration that you could do. User attributes we'll try to modify once we run the user flow and test it. And let's try to test it now. Okay, we're good here. And if I say run user flow, now it is sign up and sign in both, right? So you have both the option. Right now we don't have we have not set up the account, so let's just set up first. And I'm gonna use this account as long as I remember gmail.com. So the equal to yeah, I think this is the right email. Send verification code. Let me check if I have received the email. I think I just received it now. 533824. 533824. Verify the code. Cool. Now we need to put our new password. It's asking me the attributes that we decided to choose. Right, so it looks good to me. Haha. And we have the token here, we have the application claim here, the name is, display name is coming fine, the one that we provided, Satish, and sign up, sign in. So this is pretty good, and as a result we have now created this identity into the B2C tenant. So if we go back here, hopefully we should be able to see the user here showing up. Yep, see here, beautiful, right? So now we have created this user, and it is within the Azure Active Directory because this is the account we created, the password. And Azure Active Directory means Azure B2C Active Directory here, not the regular Active Directory. Now once we have tested that, now we can test in the sign up and sign in and see whether he can sign in, right? Because we are good now. So go back to the user flow, and our next test would be to sign up, sign in, and we can run the user flow and we can run again. This time we just need to sign in and see if it works, right? So our email account was satish.halta01@gmail.com, and the password. Voila. So we are good, right? We are absolutely good. Now, if you want to modify attributes, you could also do that. Let me close this. You can use the attributes here, right? We can add additional attributes if we like. I'm not the right place. So if you like, you want to add an additional attribute into your claims, right? Application claim, you can add a claim here. For an example, I can call it as if you want to ask the users to provide their, for an example, zip code, right? And you can create it. And once you're done there, it will be showing up into your user flow, sign up and sign ins, and the user attributes. So you have the zip code. Now you can check it and save it, and same thing, you could do an application claim. And we will also modify the profile edit user flow and make sure that we do this and save it. And we also do on the application claim. And then we can test it, that whether our profile update lets us update the zip code. It's running very slow today, I don't know why. So we are doing the application claims too and trying to save it. Alright, so now we can test the profile update. I think we are already in the profile update user flow, and let's try to test it. Alright, let's try to test it. So it's asking now, right? That's what we expected. I hope this expect I picked up the string. And guess what? So in your claim, it shows the extension attribute now updated as what we expected here. So this is what it should be working. This is how it's working. And always when we create a custom attribute, they would always show extension underscore, right? So if I created here, for an example, instead of zip code, I would have created address, it would show extension underscore address, right? So that's how it works. So pretty cool stuff. Now one more thing that probably we want to test in terms of our workflows, user flows. Let's see the password reset if it works. And it's very slow, unfortunately, so I have to pause it and wait for this thing to come. And I can continue. All right, so we can now change, continue and change the password. And I can change my password. And voila, it just works. Awesome, right? Beautiful. So the next task is to try to add an additional identity provider to your B2C directory or B2C tenant here, which would be another Azure Active Directory, and then we would attempt to use the Facebook. So hopefully I will be successful. I'm going to pause and come back to you. So the first task for me is to create a service principal that can use the Graph API in my other Azure Active Directory tenant. So I am here in my another Azure AD tenant, and I'm going to create, I could have done in the same Azure Active Directory that I was one, but I decided to do that, and I can create a service principal here and new registration. All right, so I'm going to use this, call it as B2C. And the redirect URL is very important because this is where we are going to redirect it to our Azure B2C Active Directory, and that is the URL we need to do. I have captured that URL somewhere. Let me capture it here, and now we should be able to register it, right? This is very important to do that when we register it here. And now we are good, and now we need to get the keys. Okay, our secret here, I would create a secret, new client secret, expire nervous, B2C. As you know that this is only available in this window. Once we close this window, this is gonna go away. So I just want to capture it. I captured it. I also need to know the application ID. So let's pick it up. That we will be using once we are configuring the other side of it. All right, so as far as this part is concerned, we are good to go. Now we need to go back to the Azure Active Directory B2C and add the identity provider there. We need to click on the identity provider. Right now we only have the email. and now we need to add the Azure Active Directory as one of our identity provider. All right, it came back finally, and now we need to add a new OpenAD Connect provider, which is what is going to let us connect to the Azure AD provider, right? So we need to put a name here, and I'm going to put Azure AD Lab. That is the name of our other Active Directory. We need to put the metadata URL, which I think I have captured it here, and it could be HTTPS, so hopefully copy. Yep. So HTTPS. All right, that sounds it took it. Making sure we are good. Client ID would be the application that we created, the service principal we created there. That would be our application ID here. They just created there, and that should be this guy. And then client secret would be the key that we created, the secret that we created. That should be this guy. Okay, scope is OpenID. The response type a code or ID token. If we keep code, it's going to ask for a consent. If we leave it to ID token, it's not going to ask for consent. So not a big deal, but this is just one more end user's perspective. If we could change it to code or ICO, to ID token, then ID token would assume that it doesn't need to put any consent. Response mode is fine. Domain hint. Okay, so now I can just keep it Azure AD Lab here, and then we need to provide the user ID. We have to do the mapping here. User OID would be OID. Display name would be, what is the display name? I think it's name. Display name would be name. Given name would be given underscore name, and surname would be, I think, the family underscore name. And email ID is, I think, unique. Unique name. And that should allow me to save it, and it should create custom IDP there. OpenID Connect Azure AD Lab is right here, right? So now we can allow our the user flow that we have created as additional identity provider there. So let's do that. All right, so let's go to the user flows, and let's go to our sign up and sign in user flow. Let's look at the identity provider, and now we have the OpenID Connect with Azure AD Lab. We can just save it, and that should allow now our other Azure Active Directory users to be able to sign in here. And if I do this here, now I'm able to sign in here or sign up, and we have here sign in with your social account, which is Azure AD Lab, which is the directory that we created. And I have got many accounts here. In this one, let me just show you quickly the account that we're going to use. We're going to use this DAO test 01, which is in Azure AD Lab. So we go back here and we try to go here and use another account and say DAO test01 at aztest.club, right? This is in another Azure Active Directory, and there is a federation on this environment, so it should take me to my sign-on page. And if it is a single sign-on for that user, automatically the user gets a single sign-on. And this is what the code and the option that I was talking about, the consent. And if I accept it, it's going to take me to the actual page here. Now the username is automatically picked up here. The zip code, I can put it here, 48324. Email address, the reason it's not populated because that user doesn't have an email in that environment. Oh, needs to send a verification code. Oh, I don't have that. This is the new thing, but you see there I don't have the email for this guy. I can try to do with another account, and hopefully that should work. Let me try with another account. Alright, so I'm logged in as a different user now, and I would complete this and see if I can do it without the email verification. This needs an email address. And I need to sign in on. So I got the code here, hopefully. And 482664, 482664, verify the code, cool, and now I can continue. Beautiful. See here, this is the application claim. All the required information is coming in here, and we are good, right? If I can close this and close this, going back to the Azure AD B2C and users, I should have that user. This is coming from that account from external Azure Active Directory, B2C admin. Why does it show B2C admin? But let's see if I can sign back. So folks, I was able to successfully log in. If you see here with that account, and the reason I was having a problem because it was cached, and I opened a private browser and a different browser, and I was successful, right? So our task that we had decided to do that is successful. And if you see, we have users that is from Gmail account, the email account. This is our admin account, and this is the account that we have federated from other Azure Active Directory. So we are all good here. Next task that we have is to create a Facebook as an identity provider, and let's start jumping into that. All right, in order to add the Facebook as an identity provider, I have to log on to the developers facebook.com and create an app first, and then we need an app ID and secret. I had tried a few things in past, so let's create a new app. I would do this, right? Build connected experience, continue. I will call as B2C. My email is fine. um, business manager account, no, I just need it. Create an app. I'm not a robot. Confirm all this stuff here. App is created, and then we need to do the app ID and some other stuff. Alright, so let's do some basic settings here. And privacy URL, I don't have any, but I can borrow from steal it from Microsoft for the time being. And we privacy.microsoft, and scroll it down. Add platform. We can say website. Save changes. Post and URL of our site. Sorry, so I forgot that. The URL of my B2B B2C site is right. And it is required. Alright, I need to capture the app ID now, and last task would be to get the keys, and then we are on our way and finish the task at least at this point. And I need to capture the secret. Copy. And now we can add it as an identity provider to our B2C. Let's go back to the B2C. Alright, we are back to our B2C, and we can start adding our identity providers here. So I apologize, I just forgot one task. We need to add this product section here and go to the Facebook login and setup, and go to the settings, and we need to put the valid OAuth redirect URL, which we have already captured in last time when we did that. Oops. And save changes. Changes are saved, and now it was in development. I have to turn it on. Oh, is that This is an additional thing. This is bothering me. I just have nothing else to do. So now I can go to the Facebook login settings and try to turn it on. Hopefully it will work. Yep. And I am just doing for education. Switch mode should turn on. Live. Now we are good. Now we need to do the rest of the work in B2C tenant. So we go there. Alright, so we are at B2C, identity provider, Facebook. Now we need to name an identity provider, client ID and client secret. We know that it is Facebook, and the client ID and client secret we captured here. The app ID from Facebook that we created, copy, and the secret. Save, and it should configure the Facebook. Not that difficult, folks, not that difficult at all. Honestly speaking, I'm doing it for the first time as I speak to you, so it's a good lesson for me as well. So now the Facebook is configured. If we go to the user flow, we know what we need to do now. And we need to add into our sign up and sign in user flow Facebook as an identity provider. So I am in my sign up, sign in user flow, identity provider. We have OpenID, we have email. Now we can also add Facebook and save it, and then we can test the flow. Okay, let's test the user flow now. So now I have the option to sign in with the email, the sign in to log in with my Azure Active Directory, and also with my Facebook. It's going to verify it. So now I need to check my mail. Okay, 880718. Where did it go? And folks, I was successful logging on with the Facebook. If you see, my IDP is facebook.com. My zip code is all good. I'm logged in here. and that's my JWT token or IE token that would be passed into the application, right? So that's pretty cool stuff, and that works. We can go back and check in our Azure B2C instance the users, and I hope that we should see that user now from Facebook too. So we have got Facebook identity, we have a federated Azure Active Directory identity, we have got this identity that we are using for administrative perspective, and we have a partner email that we are also using for B2C. So that's pretty cool. In fact, friends, I think this concludes this video here. I hope you like it. I hope you found enough material here to digest. Thank you again for watching. I really appreciate all your time and patience to watch these long videos. This would conclude this session, and please do not forget to watch the next session, which is the video 3, which is a live demo on AD Connect and different authentication options that you could leverage. Pretty impressive, very exciting. So I'll see you there. Thanks again, and have a great day, great evening, whichever part of the world you are. Stay safe, stay away from COVID, and talk to you soon. Bye bye.